It is now official. Zack Scott will not be back with the New York Mets next season. The acting GM was placed on administrative leave after a DWI, and according to Andy Martino of SNY, he will not be retained. On today's Locked On Mets Short, I'll talk about what this means for the Mets as they still try to rebuild their front office.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So when Zack Scott was first arrested for driving while intoxicated, it appeared like this was the likely outcome we would see, that he would no longer be part of the New York Mets. But over the last couple of days and weeks, as the process to hire a new president or a GM has gotten more and more drawn out, it seemed like there was starting to be a slight chance that Scott could be back. Now, that does not necessarily mean he would have been the GM, but if the Mets had promoted somebody else from within, maybe Scott could have remained part of the organization in some capacity. He was very integral to what the Mets did this past season as they tried to move towards being more analytically driven. This is a guy with a long career at the Boston Red Sox who really did bring a lot to the table here, who was well respected prior to the arrest. And so there was some sentiment that maybe he could be back. Now that he's not, this is pointing towards potentially a new GM hire at some point this week, especially since they have finally ripped the band-aid off before the case is even closed as far as the DWI. So now Scott is out. That means somebody else could be coming in and taking his former position as the next GM of the Mets. We're just not sure yet who is going to be that person. There's been some names floated, but we've been hearing names a bunch. So I'm not going to speculate on who's going to be the next GM, but I do want to talk a bit about Zack Scott and his year with the Mets. He was put in a very, very tough spot. Jared Porter was the GM, he was the assistant. Jared Porter ends up in the news for all the wrong reasons as he was sexually harassing that reporter back when he was with the Cubs. The Mets made the right call 100%. They fired him right away, and Zack Scott gets the job. He is the acting GM, the interim GM, whatever you want to call him. He never had that full autonomy that he was the next guy in charge, that he was going to be running baseball ops past the 2021 season. In the first half, things were starting to lean that way. The Mets were doing great. They were finding a way to win through the margins. They were picking up the right guys here and there, like a Billy McKinney. Then you trade a Billy McKinney and get a legitimate prospect. A lot of nice little small moves that Zack Scott did that I really liked. The team defense was great. The Mets were shifting more than ever, and he was a big part of that analytics team and implementing a game plan with each series. And again, the Mets were winning within the margins. But the second half happens, the Mets collapse, he gets arrested, and it is totally understandable that the Mets want to turn the page and start anew here. And I think that is the best sign. But what we're still waiting on is what are the hires going to be? How long are they going to wait to make those hires? Are these new hires going to have full autonomy? And how long are they going to be, or how big of a leash are they going to be given to run the New York Mets? Because the last thing anybody wants is to be having these conversations again 12 months from now. So right now, that's what we're waiting on. Zack Scott will no longer be with the New York Mets. And once we hear more about which direction they're going in next, we will have full episodes covering it right here with Locked On Mets. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get the latest updates on your Mets and tune in Monday through Friday for new full episodes.